Good evening. It's 6 o'clock, so we'll get started. My name is John Urino. I'm the zoning examiner for the city of Tucson. We have 4 cases to be heard tonight. 2 of them are special exception land use cases, and 2 are rezoning cases. We'll start with the special exception land use cases first. And Mr. McLaughlin, would you please present case SE 2125, Tucson Water, 5301 East Hawthorne? Thank you.
Yes. This is a request by Lexi Willett of the Planning Center on behalf of the property owner, City of Tucson, for improvements and upgrades to an existing city well site as a special exception land use in the R1 zone. Tucson Water has lately been working to install control system upgrades to a number of wells and reservoirs across the city in order for the wells to function optimally and to improve water quality and delivery services. This well site is located on a 0.19 acre property at 5301 Hawthorne Street. The proposal includes installation of new equipment and a new shade structure to protect its electrical equipment. The proposal is consistent with the performance criteria for a utility distribution center and is consistent with policy direction in Plan Tucson and the Broadway Craycroft Area Plan, which support development designated to be compatible with and sensitive to surrounding land uses. A plan amendment is not required and subject to compliance with the preliminary conditions. Approval of this special exception is appropriate. And to date, we've received 2 approvals and 0 protests.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Ms. Willett, would you like to be heard?
Just very briefly, Mr. Urino, for the record, Lexi Willett with the Planning Center located at 2 East Congress in downtown Tucson. On behalf of Tucson Water, you're really familiar with these cases by now, so the improvements entail in refreshing the screening and then actually installing a landscape border along the available property as required by code. So with that, we've had no interaction with neighbors whatsoever through this process, and we respectfully ask for your approval of this special exception. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Willett. Would anyone in the audience like to be heard on this case, case SE 2125? Hearing no one, I'm closing the hearing on case SE 2125. Our next special exception land use case is case SE 2126, Tucson Water, 9102 East Palm Tree Drive. Mr. McLaughlin, please present the staff report.
Yes, thank you. This is a request by Lexi Willett of the Planning Center on behalf of the property owner, City of Tucson, for minor technological improvements to a city well site and as a special exception land use in the R1 zone. Tucson Water has been diligently working to install technology and instrument upgrades to better monitor water services throughout the city and throughout the Tucson Water Service area. The special exception site is for a 0.04 acre parcel located south of 22nd Street and west of Harrison Road, adjacent to an alleyway between Palm Tree Drive and Maple Leaf Drive, immediately south of the home located at 9102 East Palm Tree Drive. The project is in compliance with the performance criteria for a utility distribution use, and the request is consistent with policy direction in Plan Tucson and the Pantano East Area Plan, which both support development designed to be compatible with and sensitive to surrounding land uses. The plan amendment is not required and subject to compliance with the preliminary conditions. Approval of this requested special exception is deemed appropriate by staff. And to date, we've received 1 approval and 0 protests.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Ms. Willett, would you like to be heard?
Just briefly again, thank you, sir. Lexi Willett with the Planning Center on behalf of Tucson Water. This request is for, again, minor technology improvements at an existing well site located at Palm on Palm Tree Drive there. And the improvements at this site entail installing a new shade structure, which is about 8.5 feet tall, and then installing the privacy slats, which currently don't exist. As Mr. McLaughlin mentioned, this well site is in the back of homes in an alleyway, so it's not really visible. So privacy slats are a great improvement for the facility. So with that, we respectfully request your approval on this special exception. Thank you so much, Mr. Urino.
Thank you, Ms. Wallet. Would anyone in the audience like to be heard on case SE 2126? Hearing no one, I'm closing the hearing. Our next two cases are rezoning cases. And on rezoning cases, I conduct zoning hearings on behalf of the mayor and council and make findings of fact, which I put into a written report, along with my recommendation, which I then send along to the mayor and council for their consideration and for their final decision. My report will be based on information submitted to me, which includes the rezoning application, the staff report, all written approvals and protests, all correspondence, and the testimony given at tonight's public hearing. I'll also include in the record all documents submitted to me up to the close of the public hearing. A recording of tonight's testimony is being made, and if requested, a transcript will be prepared. With that in mind, if you choose to testify tonight, and I invite you to do so if you would like to, please speak clearly and start by stating your name and your address. The process after the hearing goes like this. First, within 5 working days, I prepare a preliminary report, and then 5 working days later, I prepare a final report, which includes my recommendation to the mayor and council. When the mayor and council takes up the case, they will make their decision on the rezoning request based on my recommendation and based on other factors. So anyone who would like to be heard on a case, I would ask you to please, after the staff report has been presented and the applicant has spoken, I'll open it up, and anyone who wants to be heard, you can either push the button on your computer and raise your hand, or just make known to me you want to be heard, and I'll have your testimony or ask you to present your testimony. With that as a preliminary, I would ask Mr. Beal to present the staff report on case C9-2119, Center Point, Valencia Road. Mr. Beal?
Yes. This is a request by Carrie Sylvan of Lazarus and Sylvan on behalf of the developer and applicant Center Point Real Estate Group, LLC, to rezone approximately 1.7 acres from O3 and C1 to C2 zoning. The applicant intends to develop a drive-through restaurant and self-service car wash on the northern 1.7 acres of a larger 4.88 acre parcel located at 1511 West Valencia Road near the southeast corner of Midvale Park Road and Valencia Road. This is a concurrent plan amendment, PA-21-01, and then also the rezoning, C9-21-19 process, in which the applicant has held a combined neighborhood meeting for both the plan amendment and rezoning request. The concurrent process includes the applicant attending a planning commission study session and public hearing, and then a zoning examiner public hearing prior to mayor and council hearing, where both of these requests will be heard at the same meeting. Should be noted that the project site is within the Santa Cruz area plan, which the Santa Cruz area plan is to provide land use guidance for proposed rezoning request. The amendment site is located within key parcel 4 of the Santa Cruz area plan, in which land use map 3 identifies the amendment site as appropriate for office and high density residential uses. A plan amendment is currently being processed to allow this use, and the Planning Commission has heard this, both the study session and the public hearing, in which the Planning Commission has made a recommendation to Mayor and Council for approval of the plan amendment. And then it should be noted that policies support commercial uses in appropriate locations if compatible issues can be addressed. The Midvale area should be developed as a mixed-use community in conformance with the approved zoning concept plan and the Midvale Development Concept Plan for Key Parcel 4 supports commercial uses on the rezoning site. The proposed rezoning is consistent with and supported by the policy direction provided in Plan Tucson and the Santa Cruz Area Plan, subject to compliance with the attached preliminary conditions. Approval of the requested rezoning is appropriate. As of to date, there have been 2 approvals, and we have 2 letters of approval from the Midvale Park Neighborhood Association and the Sunnyside Neighborhood Association as well. That concludes staff's report. You're
Thank you,
muted, John.
I got it. Ms. Sylvan, would you like to be heard?
Yes, I have a very brief presentation with some maps, and I know that Ms. Herrera is also on the line. This time I'm going to try and remember to share my screen. Are you seeing my screen?
I'm certain that I will be. There you go.
Okay. All right. Carrie Sylvan, for the record, 5983 East Grant Road, representing Centerpoint Development. Clint Jameson is on the at the hearing as well with Centerpoint in case there's any questions. And then both Robin Large and Jackson Cassidy from my office who've worked on this application are also here. They are appearing in disguise as Rory Juneman since our conference room computer apparently appears that way. I'm not going to go through this agenda. I'm going to glide through these. As staff mentioned, this is a combination. I think it's the first concurrent plan amendment and rezoning. So what's outlined in green on this map is the little less than 5 acres that's going through the plan amendment. It's currently designated in the Santa Cruz area plan for office and high density residential, and we're requesting to amend it to commercial to allow for then the rezoning on the pinkish red portion, the 1.7 acres up along Valencia, as discussed in the staff report. This just gives you a sense of the uses that are around. It is predominantly commercial and office. And as Ms. Herrera reminded me, it was only about 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, that the Circle K that's adjacent to us went through a similar plan amendment and rezoning process as well. Our request is to rezone from C1 and O3 to C2. This is just an acknowledgement of the plan amendment designation that's running simultaneously and the modification of it to commercial to allow commercial office and high density residential. The preliminary development plan is really what I want to focus on because that's the key to the rezoning. This is the 1.7 acres. As staff has done a great job in the staff report outlining what's being proposed. The food service retail on one side and the car wash on the other. We're meeting code requirements. We are not requesting any additional curb cuts on either Valencia or Midvale Park. This was all intended to work along with the Circle K actually that's on the corner. We're going to meet all of the landscaping, setback, parking, all of the various code requirements. If there's anything specific on this site plan, Mr. Urino, that you want to, we can come back to it and I can try and answer questions or get somebody smarter than me to answer them. I want to talk a little bit about mainly the neighborhood interaction, but as staff indicated, this is concurrent. So we had a joint neighborhood meeting. Prior to the neighborhood meeting, we reached out to both Mr. Miller at Midvale Park Neighborhood Association and Ms. Herrera with the Sunnyside neighborhood. And we just to introduce the project, talk about it, see if there were any issues. And frankly, both of them were most concerned that we connect with the Tucson Police Department, and particularly the folks in this area for safe by design and other concepts. So we went ahead and reached out to TPD and sent them the neighborhood notification. So we got on our virtual neighborhood meeting and it ended up being more of a discussion between Clint, our client, and and TPD. None of the other, no neighbors showed up. And so there was a very good beginning of a discussion and mainly introduction to the folks from TPD who need to be contacted. So it was a little bit on the informal side, but good connections made and some good ideas. And they were happy to see that the site is being developed. I think everybody is, because it's worse as a vacant piece right now. So then we proceeded with the applications, the staff review. As I said before, I think staff mentioned this, Planning Commission held their study session and have made a unanimous recommendation on the plan amendment. And then we're here for the zoning examiner. A couple things that I need to point out in the report that's in front of you. The correct preliminary development plan is attached to the report, which is dated November 2nd. Condition number 1 on the report that's at least available online or was available last week has the incorrect date. So condition number 1 needs to reference the November 2nd preliminary development plan. And that's particularly important because one of the other issues that I've worked with Ms. Herrera on for 24 years of doing zonings in the southern area of Tucson has to do with the alcohol beverage sales. So there is a note on that plan that says alcoholic beverage sales will be limited to on-premises consumption only and will not be sold via the drive-through. And that was a critical component, as mentioned in Ms. Herrera's letter as well, that needs to be on that PDP and then cross-referenced with the correct date. And we really appreciate her working with us as well on this project and making sure we're able to alleviate her concerns. With that, I think our request is obviously a respectful request that you recommend approval of this to move it forward, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, and I've noted your comment on the correct date for the preliminary development plan. I don't have any questions of you, Ms. Sylvan. Would anyone in the audience like to be heard on this case, case C9-2119? Hearing no one, I'm closing the hearing, and thank you for your participation. And welcome, Mr. Jameson. Take care. The next case and our final case tonight is case C9-212, the Jostler Lorpable House. That's my best efforts on that one. 306 North Longfellow Avenue. Mr. Beal, would you present the staff report?
Yes, this is a request by Damian Klinko of the Tucson Historic Preservation Foundation on behalf of the property owner, Benjamin and Sarah Fortna, to designate the Jostler Lorpable House at 306 North Longfellow Avenue as an historic landmark. The historic landmark, or HL designation, changes the zoning from R1 to HL R1 zoning. The rezoning site is located approximately 670 feet east of Alvernon Way and 1,258 feet south of East 5th Street. There is no proposed development associated with the historic landmark designation. It should be noted that the application for this designation was reviewed by the Historic Preservation Office and PDSD staff and referred to the Tucson-Pima County Historical Commission Plans Review Subcommittee to formally consider the nomination. The application and the subcommittee voted to recommend approval of the nomination proposal as an HL. It should again be noted that Jostler Lorpable House was designed by the architect Josias Jostler for himself and his wife in 1936. They lived in the house until 1939, and the property was rented to the Lorpables until they purchased it on May 18, 1942. The Jostler Lorpable House meets the historical standards for designation as a historic landmark, and the Plan Tucson and the Alvernon Broadway area plan support neighborhood preservation and more specifically support the use of tools available to preserve the historical aspects of the neighborhood. Approval of the requested HLR1 zoning is appropriate. As of to date, we have 9 approvals and 1 protest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beal. Would the applicant or the applicant's representative like to be heard?
Good evening, zoning examiner Lorino. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present. As noted in the application, the property is a significant cultural resource within the city of Tucson, and as noted, was designed by Josiah Jostler for himself. It's a rare example of a regional interpretation of early modern design with built from Adobe in what is now Midtown Tucson, but was on the outskirts of the city at the time. It's an extraordinary property, and the Tucson Historic Preservation Foundation is really thrilled to be working with the property owners on the development of this application, and we respectfully ask that this get a recommendation for designation.
Thank you, Mr. Klinko. Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard? Hearing no one, I'm closing the hearing on this case, and I want to thank everyone in attendance for attending this evening, and I hope you all have a safe and wonderful evening. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.